When I was a deacon, I was based in Ballyfermot for over a year before coming to our parishes here. And I was out one day for lunch with the parish priest, and I needed to go to the bathroom, and on the way back to the table I was stopped by a woman in her mid-30s or 40s in the hallway of the restaurant, and I thought because I was wearing the collar in public I was going to be read the riot act. But to my surprise, it was the complete opposite. She said she was delighted to see a young man wearing a collar, and then she started to look around herself a bit like this, as if trying to see who was watching her, and she pulled her scarf to the right hand side and she revealed a beautiful crucifix necklace around her neck. And then she said, "I'm one of you, I'm with you," something to that sentiment. And I was shocked at first, but I found it quite a beautiful experience. And I remember thinking shortly afterwards, is that where we are now? I mean, I knew it was coming down the track, but I didn't realize so soon. I mean, this woman, she felt that she had to hide the crucifix around her neck in case the friends that she was with, having coffee with, would see it. Because she obviously knew that by being too public about her love of Christ and the church, she would face some kind of public penalty. And I often term this type of attitude the Nicodemus effect. I mean, many of you here, I have held holy hours in St. Mark's Church last year and the year before, and we just candlelight, all the lights to be off. But the amount of people that I never saw before who would not be regular mass goers were sitting in the back in front of the Eucharist, afraid of people who might see them. And I have a funny suspicion, and there's a lot of people like that out there today, men and women of all ages who have faith in the Lord, but they're afraid to be public about it, out of fear of social exclusion, loss of a job promotion, awkwardness in the workplace, or indeed could lose family members, the friendship of a family member, which has happened. This is very real for a lot of people today in Ireland. I mean, Jesus' commission in our gospel this morning, he says, "You go and proclaim the kingdom of heaven is close at hand." That is not easy to do in today's Ireland. I mean, we live in a time where faith in Jesus, it's to be kept private. It's forced upon us to be kept private, not to be public about the Lord. And having a publicly visible love of the Catholic Church by having a regular sacramental life, for example, like you guys, that's a big no-no in today's Ireland. And it can, and it has cost a lot of people both their social life, their friends, and even family members. And I think that's a call for a time that we're in, for people who profess themselves to be Catholic, to not be afraid, and to stand up, and to say it with love in their hearts, and to not hide their love of Christ or His church. I mean, we're all called to proclaim and to live out the values of our blessed Lord's kingdom as best we can in our words, in our actions, and in our deeds. Our faith, it is not a private personal relationship only with God. It's public. I mean, here we are gathered together in public around the altar, the table of the Lord. So evangelization, everybody, it's about being public about our faith. And that is a basic gospel principle, to go out to the whole world and proclaim the good news of Jesus' resurrection anew for our time. That's why, it's not enough. It really is not enough just to go to Mass and to say our prayers in private. That's easy. That's easy. But we are being called now to stand up to the untruths that defy our gospel. And our land today, Ireland, it is full of people who are very loud and very vocal in their anti-Christian Catholic rhetoric. And with that in mind, if ever the Lord needed strong and courageous men and women of faith in the workplace, it's now. And to do so without fear of losing friends or family or even getting that promotion. Because to be an unapologetic Christian Catholic today, it will bring conflict and will bring friction with the multitude of ideologies that unfortunately seem to favour the kind of ancient worldview of unbridled desires. I mean, that expression, comes to mind. There's three things we shouldn't never talk about in a pub: politics, sex, and religion. Well, I say, to hell with that expression from now on. The time of authentic witness has come in our land once again. Not to be afraid to defend church teaching or the values of the gospel, especially during a conversation or discussion over a pint or at the dinner table. We can't be afraid to lose out in this world for the sake of God's kingdom, but to always defend the beauty of the gospel with love and love of the truth to those we speak to, without being nasty or without being condescending or superiority. Nobody wins in that type of situation. One of my favourite films is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and there's a particular scene in it that comes to mind where Sean Connery, who plays Harrison Ford's dad in the movie, the two of them find themselves in 1930s Berlin, in a square where the authorities are burning loads of books. In other words, they're censoring what people can and cannot say or read. It sounds familiar in today's world. But anyway, Indy's dad, he turns to Harrison Ford and says to him really quietly, he says, "Well, my boy, we are pilgrims in an unholy land." And how appropriate is that for us today? And I think it is with gospel courage and a zeal and a love for Jesus Christ in such a land that evangelization and the proclamation of the gospel, yes, it will find resistance. It always will. But I think in such a place like Ireland today, the gospel and evangelization can bear the best and the most fruit for the Lord. And to anybody who may be listening now or watching me now, who do fear social exclusion or loss of friendship because of your faith in Jesus Christ, to you guys I say, do not be afraid. What is it that Jesus said to the apostles when they were in the boat in Galilee in the middle of a storm and they were terrified? What's this he said? Courage. It is I. Do not be afraid.